counterterrorism center head Joe Kent for alleged leaks that he might have created. So FBI conducting a leak investigation into former Trump official who resigned over the Iran war. And Markwayne Mullin faces the Homeland Security confirmation hearing and everything like that. So definitely Mullin signals he would end known policy that slowed disaster aid. So he's saying that he would do better with disaster and everything like that. And Tulsi Gabbard testifies on Iran intelligence at a Senate hearing. So top intelligence officials back on Capitol Hill for House hearing on global threats. So what's the threat? Gabbard says it's up to Trump on Iran and elsewhere. So definitely it looks like there might be some conversation as to what makes up a threat and what doesn't make up a threat. He has to justify what he did. Black leaders slammed J.B. Pritzker after the Illinois primary. So Juliana Strayton wins the Illinois Democratic primary for the U.S. Senate and everything along those lines. And over a third of TSA officials called out at 3 major U.S. airports in a single day, as there is still that funding standstill and standoff as well. So definitely there's a lot of folks that might be having a hard time getting to their place of travel if they are trying to travel around the world and everything like that. So I'm gonna bring in Rick Rosner, see what he's got to say about a number of these stories. I think that I've got Sasha Starr and Nick with me, and I think definitely Dr. Sharif is here as well. So we'll see what he's got on his mind. But we've got a lot of things going on in the world, and I just mentioned a couple of them. So how are you gentlemen doing, and how's life treating the two of you?
Okay. I mean, here in the U.S., we have the worst people in charge. And it's crazy, and we're all complicit here. So, you know, the Republicans and Trump, terrible. The Democrats ran a terrible campaign in 2024. The people who were dumb enough, the 77 million people who were dumb enough to vote for Trump, you know, he screwed things up badly in 2020. And we're letting him screw up things possibly worse now. Stuff's coming out about Corey Lewandowski, who is Kristi Noem's boyfriend, who I guess was secretly running ICE, but was sneaking around, so there was no record of what he was doing. He would enter doors along with other people, so there wasn't a record of him using his pass to open secure doors. He would have other people make calls for him, so there was no record of him making calls. He was manipulating. Anyway, this guy, he's a huge jerk. He's a bully. He's a sexual assaulter, and he was running ICE from behind the scenes. And here we are about to appoint Markwayne Mullin, the least educated member of the Senate. The only member of the Senate doesn't have a 4-year college degree, 0 law enforcement experience. We saw how that worked out with Kristi Noem with 0 law enforcement experience.
So he doesn't have a degree at all?
Markwayne Mullin has a 2-year junior college associate's degree. So it's better than nothing. But he's got no law enforcement experience. And he admits he's not smart, but you can be not smart if you have experience. He's a plumber. He ran a family plumbing business and a family farm. That he would be in charge of 250,000 people.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a plumber, Rick. I've got an uncle that has passed, and his family ran a major plumbing company here in Durham.
Yeah, plumbers are great, but plumbers are not necessarily qualified to run a set of federal agencies that have 250,000 employees.
Well, that's true. They might not be qualified to run this particular agency. I will not argue with you on that. I just know that plumbers sometimes get a bad rap and everything.
No, plumbers, we have great plumbers. We had plumber Jim, awesome. Anytime we had a problem, he could figure it out. We have Something and Daughters Plumbing, and every 2 years our waistline clogs up because tree roots get in. Mm-hmm. And they have to root it out, and they always do a great job. They repiped our whole house because, California catches on fire, and it's hard to get insurance because insurance companies don't like paying when 1,000 houses burn down. So they canceled our insurance, and so to get reinsured, they said, well, you're going to have to replace all the pipes in your house. So we just
Wow.
had that done. They did a great job. But, I would not necessarily take the guys who repiped our house and put them in charge of ICE.
Yep. What is your take on this, Nick? You're over there in Spain.
Well, I'll tell you, Mark. See, that was part of the great experiment that the United States set up several hundred years ago. It used to be that if you're going to be in government, you came from a royal class and you were trained since you were in birth to actually manage and administer various different things. Then the great experiment was the United States of America that took anybody off the streets and put them in a position of power. So what we're seeing is basically the great experiment. We'll see how well it works, because Trump is following the American tradition of taking anybody off the streets and putting them in a powerful position. Now, if you want to go back to the royals, I have no problem with that, and that only people that come from royal families should be in position of power. That's fine, But this is America, and this is how it's been for.
The only reason you have no problem with that is because you come from a royal family, from what I understand.
That's the reason I have a problem with it, Mark. I was going, well, I have a royal background, so I don't have a problem with that, But I did read how my ancestors got screwed in 1650, because you don't want to be on the other side of a losing venture, which they were in the Battle of Dunbar, which is the reason they got kicked out of England and got sent to the British colonies in 1650. So being a royal track doesn't necessarily mean you don't lose your head, as Mary Queen of Scots found out, and so did a lot of them. It's a very dangerous position. So once you get these positions of power, they also can be very dangerous, as the top people in Iran have recently discovered, as off with their heads, they're dead. However, if you want to win this war, you may have to kill about 150,000 people. I'm not kidding. In other words, you got to get rid of the entire Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And so the thing is, will the United States have the stomach to do it? Probably not. Will Israel? Probably. And so,
but they're embedded. They're embedded in the general population. So the Revolutionary Guard, 150,000 people. But the first bombing run of this war took out a Revolutionary Guard base, but also blew up 170 schoolgirls, because we have.
Oh yeah, there will be blood. There will be collateral damage, and the liberals will jump into the collateral damage of war, which happens in every war. Oh, we killed school kids, and they're going to focus in on that, and they'll ignore the regime that killed 3,000 to 30,000 of their own people. That gets ignored. But if you want to win this war, if you want to change regime, if you want to have the people, which 80% who don't support the regime, control it, you're probably going to have to eliminate about 150,000. That would be my best.
But Sasha will tell you, and we saw it in Gaza, that if you want to wipe out Hamas, that was embedded in the general population, it was at least one civilian for every Hamas person who got killed, and it was more like 2 to 1. And that's not unusual. So, there are 150,000 Revolutionary Guard soldiers, which is the internal police force that keeps the population down. But to kill 150,000 of them, you probably have to kill 200,000 civilians.
That might be true. War is a brutal game. It's not for the faint of heart. And so the thing is, if you want to win wars, you have to be a warrior. The whole history shows this. Now we're going to see whether or not we have the warrior in chief, or is he going to flake out and not do what is necessary to win this war, which is to kill probably about, you're right, Rick, probably about 200,000 civilians and 150,000 Revolutionary Guards, which means it'll be about 350,000. It seems like a lot of people, but there's 90 million people plus in Iran. It really isn't.
So we're just going to see guarantee that the regime, that whatever replacement regime, if we somehow make the Ayatollahs fall, no Ayatollahs left alive, no Revolutionary Guard. We did have regime collapse in Iraq after 26 days of ground war, though that Iran is a much bigger country than Iraq, just fucking
Right.
huge. So,
Yeah, and how many people died in the Iraq War? I understand that when the U.S. invaded, we had very few casualties, maybe 5,000.
right, but then that led to a
But
civil
how many
war.
Iraqis died, Rick? How many Iraqis
But initially in the Civil War that we touched off after the regime collapsed, 500,000. Then we
Okay, there we
passed
go. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not being unrealistic, and you're not being unrealistic, and neither is our television show when we're saying if you want to win this war, you're saying 200,000 civilians. I'm saying 150,000 Revolutionary Guards. So we're saying 350,000. I have seen nobody.
That's
make such an
optimistic
announcement.
because we're only talking about the Revolutionary Guard. That ignores that Iraq has another million
I'm willing to
soldiers.
bring in as a friendly amendment collateral damage of 200,000.
Can I
and
interject
total
real
amount
quick?
of deaths in this conflict should be close
Can
to
I interject real quick?
350,000.
Let you
I
tell
don't have any problem with it. I mean, that to me is reality.
So wait a
You
second.
guys have problems with reality here?
No.
And why didn't the
We're
other news announce?
we are having a
we're probably
problem
gonna
with
have to kill
reality because I
350,000
came in and you're negotiating on how many people should die.
I'm not negotiating. I'm just telling you if you want to win this war,
No. You
I'm
have
not
no
negotiating
objective.
anything.
No. Listen to what I'm
you
saying.
know? Okay,
You
let's hear
have
what you
no
have to say.
objective other than killing people. You have no solution other than, hey, these people have to die. That is what I walked in on, and you're not talking about any solutions for the Middle East. You're when you bring up the Iraq War, you're not even talking about how that panned out for Iraq itself fully. Even if it's still continuing to pan out. What you are just saying, no solutions, no nothing. You're just saying that hundreds of thousands should die, and you're okay with that. That is what I walked in.
I don't think that's what Nick's saying.
What's the
Nick is
solution?
saying,
I
if
say
you want regime change, if that's truly if that's what the U.S. truly wants,
So we're not
Okay.
discussing what the actual objective of the whole thing is. We're just talking about, hey,
regime change.
Nick,
we're just
Nick,
listen to what I'm
Professor
saying.
Nick, I have a question for you.
I honestly don't care what you're saying. I'm just saying. that
we have
I
a
see
question
that.
from
You're just-
Dr.
you're
Sharif.
flipping-
let
Say what
Dr.
you want
Sharif
about
go.
the-
He's
You're
busy.
Yeah.
flippantly
Okay.
talking about the death.
Hey, listen, I hate to say that. Pakistan had their own civil war because I had a friend of mine, Qazi Shakur, who came from Bangladesh. He was the country chess champion. And he left there because his kids were killed in a civil war in Bangladesh. He came to the U.S. They had their own problems. We had the same problem with Spain.
Did you tell him the
Revolutions
same thing?
Yeah.
Wait.
Professor Nick,
Professor
Professor Nick,
Nick.
You know, how
No,
many
no,
people
I
died
understand.
in Bangladesh?
I just
real, guys. Why are you living in a
I
fantasy?
have
Nick,
few questions for
he's
you.
got a question for you.
Professor Nick,
Sure.
I have few questions for you. Number one, who give mandate to USA to change Iranian regime? Why USA want to change Iranian regime? Who give mandate to USA?
You mean why did the U.S. do this? Okay, here's my thinking. The calculus
Yeah.
is, Dr. Sharif. Okay, when the protesters came out into Iran, they wanted to get rid of the regime that's currently in charge. It's the young people, as you know. They're the ones that are in the middle class. They're the ones that were unhappy with the current regime. And it wasn't a small percentage, 80%, 70 to 80% were unhappy with the regime. So the calculus was it's time for change. The problem with change is we know is very expensive when it comes to lives, and the media is ignoring it. I think maybe even Trump's ignoring it, but I'm just bringing to this group the reality of it. It's going to cost a lot more lives than people.
You didn't even
want
answer
to
the
admit.
question.
And it's going to cost around, as Rick and I just throwing out numbers, 350,000. So the calculus was regime change. You have a small group of people
You didn't
in
answer-
Iran that have an iron fist over the Iranian people. and they want to get rid of the Iranian regime. It's going to be
You didn't,
expensive.
Nick. You did not answer the question that you were asked.
What
Who gave
question?
the mandate?
Who did what?
Who gave the
gave-
mandate?
Who gave the
You
mandate?
mean who made the first move on the
No.
chessboard?
No,
Who gave
who-
the mandate or the authorization,
Mandate.
or who said who gave the mandate for the U.S. to do regime change?
Nobody.
There was no mandate.
That's part of the problem, because that's even what
your,
Cory
your,
Booker
pre-
is
your
talking about.
president Donald Trump and
Here is the
Netanyahu
issue.
decided it's
Nick,
time for
here
change.
is the issue. Nick, here is the issue. When
There shall be
people
change.
do not give mandate to USA, why USA involved with all of the war?
Oh, it's
USA
because
involved
we
with
are
all of
okay.
the war.
Okay, I'll tell you
Okay,
why we're
okay.
involved in the war. Okay, it's
See,
because now this
Nick,
this
Nick,
could
you
be
didn't even
hard.
let him finish what he was saying.
No, he wanted to know why.
No, you
the
didn't let
US
him finish.
He was asking a question. You didn't let him finish the question.
You
Okay,
interrupted
go ahead,
in the
ask
middle
the
of his question.
No problem. Nick can give answer. I will ask a small question.
No, go ahead.
With
Go ahead and
answer.
repeat
No
the question. I
problem.
have no problem.
Maybe
with that.
it will
Go
be-
ahead and repeat it.
Yeah.
Repeat the question, counsel.
No. My issue is very simple. Like, why USA involved with all of the war? As USA is a superpower, definitely we understand. But what you are discussing, very specific, that Iranian regime change. Let's say last few weeks there is a war in between Iran and USA and Israel. If mass populations of Iran, they support USA, after killing the communists, right? When USA kill the communists, they will come to the road like Bangladesh, and they can say, okay, we want to change the regime. That was logical. No, USA do not take the mass people support. On the other hand, they kill 150 or 170 young girls day one in the Iran. That is our problem. Secondly, when you are discussing about all of the wrong things, changing regime. Look, because of this war, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, every country is collapsed. We need energy. Without energy, we cannot survive. Right? Our people are dying because of this war. But how USA actually make this plan for this Iran war, changing regime? Do you want that USA will took another 6 months, 9 months, 6 days, 6 hours to change Iranian regime? Or we should think properly, we should stop all of the big countries like Russia to stop the war, right? USA to stop the war. It's look like US politicians, they are feeling threat because of Epstein files and all of the wrong information come to public and they start this war. So it's look, with this explanation, they want to change the Iranian regime. They actually killing people. They're creating problem. They are actually destroying global economy. Global economy. It's creating impact around the world, not only Bangladesh, not only Iran, everywhere. That is my concern. Thank you.
Okay, here's the solution. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard surrenders to the United States of America. That's it. They do that, the war's over, Sharif. Next question.
No, all right, here's the deal. That regime has been in place for nearly 47 years.
So what?
So, and people have tried to knock it over before. Now, the deal is, before that regime, they had a Western government. And famously, in the 1970s, people walked around Tehran wearing miniskirts. But those people who wore miniskirts, they're 70 years old now. They've been under Islamic rule for nearly 50 years. So whatever regime replaces them, I got 2 points here. We don't know that it would be westernized. It could be another form of lunacy that we don't like. Also, oh shit, did I forget my other?
Real
Oh
quick.
yeah, you talk about 150,000 Revolutionary Guard. That ignores the million soldiers they have to defend the country. So you're not just, that's another a couple 100,000 people you would have to work through to invade the country. You're not talking about 1/3 deaths. You're talking about 500,000. And
Again,
for what? For just a chance that you'd have different leadership.
Rick, since you're into the numbers, and I am too, and I like the numbers. How many
let me
people
point out the
died?
number.
Oh, wait, somebody's interrupting me. I'm asking.
Yeah, I
a
am
question.
because
Okay.
Ask the question.
I'm asking a question, Rick. How many people died in World War II?
you're asking these
35
questions
to 40 million people.
again.
I have no further.
Okay, I'm glad you have no further questions. So now let me answer. Let me point out a few things. You keep pointing flippantly about people dying. You don't care because it doesn't affect you. If anybody in your family goes to war, you haven't even talked. You're not even putting them up there. You're not talking about anybody that you know. You're just moving pawns on like a chessboard because you don't care about those individuals at all. So you're talking about these people dying flippantly because you have no value. You don't value their lives at all. And that's the first problem. The second problem is there was actually a deal on the table where we didn't even have to go to war, but Trump tore that up. So now we're at war trying to kill people for no reason. There is no reason.
I'm just talking.
Is somebody interrupting me and not listening to my point? Is somebody trying to overtalk me? Because that doesn't happen here. So again, what's going on right now is an illegal attack on another country. Illegal action taken by this administration, and it's leading to a lot of deaths, and there are no solutions. There was no actual reason for us to go to this war because there was no imminent threat. There were no nuclear weapons because according to both DNI and actually Donald Trump saying last year that there were no nuclear weapons because they were already obliterated. And according to DNI, that wasn't even happening leading up to this war, even though Donald Trump says that there was a potential nuclear attack. So again, we have an illegal action and we're not holding people accountable for that because we're going to these corners of, hey, these people can die. And that is so sad.
So Toby says there was a deal. So Obama negotiated a nuclear deal. But wait. There was a second deal in the offing that, according to reports, that Iran was negotiating with Britain and other people and had floated an offer of giving all of its uranium up. And then this was on the table a day before Trump started this war, a new deal where we would have seen actual proof that they gave up their uranium because we would have received 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium from Iran. Does that mean they could have hidden a little bit of it somewhere? Yeah, but at least we would get 1,000 pounds of their uranium.
Hold on a second. We have a special guest and everything like that, that being David Wu, who has written a book and all along those lines. And he's actually done a lot around Sasha's area of investment because he's actually been involved in Bitcoins and actually predicted the Trump victory of the first victory and the second victory from my understanding. And he's also been looking at what's going on with our oil prices. So I was glad that I was able to get through some of our public relations contacts, Mr. Wu, to be on this show. So David, I want to turn the floor over to you so that you can share a little bit about your thoughts around what's going on with oil as well as what's going on with the Trump administration and these conflicts. That's what we've been talking about here on World Edition on this particular show, as we've done on several others as well. So glad that you were able to join us, Mr. Wu.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'll tell you what I think, my 2 cents. By the way, I'm talking to you from Israel, of all places. So I'm an American living in Israel, of Chinese parentage. My wife is Israel, and I run David Wamband, which is a global macro advisory business where I advise some of the biggest macro investors in the world about investment strategy. Let me tell you this, I think there is no doubt in my mind, and I'm still very much of the same view, that this war is going to drag on longer than people think. And I've been saying this for the last 2 months, by the way. In fact, I've been long oil from $60 onwards here. And I think the mistake I think the market continues to make is the assumption that Trump is going to tackle. Now, I understand there's a Chinese saying, when you're bitten by a snake once, you're afraid of ropes for the next 10 years. A lot of people lost a lot of money when Trump tackled on the many occasions that he did in 2025. Therefore, the market is thinking, well, if things get tough, he's going to tackle again. And this is why nobody wants to sell stocks. Nobody wants to be underweight stocks. I think it's a huge mistake. My view is very simple. The only way for Trump to walk away, he had to be ahead. He was ahead a day into this war, a week into the war. But guess what? We're now 3 weeks into this war. He's no longer ahead, which means that he now has to get ahead in order he can find a saving way, basically off ramp. And then basically to do that, he'll have to take more risk. In fact, my prediction is over the next 2 weeks, we will probably see Trump ordering an amphibious assault on the Iranian coastline around Bandar Abbas, because that's the only way he can reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So my view is that I'm long oil and I'm short stocks, and then I still think that the stock market is in complete denial about essentially the geopolitical situation. I think people don't understand to what extent Trump's legacy is hanging in the balance vis-a-vis this war. And I think also that what the market doesn't understand is the involvement of China in this war. What people don't realize is that, until recently, China was very reluctant to provide Iran with a strategic backstop. But after Trump's unilateral actions against Venezuela, China has completely reassessed. And the only reason why Iran is still in this war, 3 weeks into this, taking on the combined military might of the United States and Israel and still standing, is because they're getting very strong support from China in terms of intelligence, in terms of basic equipment, in terms of everything. So we can talk. So this is what people also have to understand, and what people don't realize, and Trump doesn't want to let you know, because in some sense I can understand it's kind of scary, which is the fact that this is the first real proxy war between the United States and China. And this is also the reason why Trump is not going to walk away, because walking away is tantamount to defeat. And Trump is not going to basically go down in history as being the first U.S. president to lose against China. And this is the reason why the stock market is going down.
Sasha from Canada.
Thank you. I agree with your assessment. However, I'd like to mention something, that Mr. Trump, through all his life, he went unscathed through bankruptcies, through all the failures, personal, judicial, just all kinds. And if you think that it will go on forever, I'm sorry, you are mistaken. This is a time when Trump will start to take responsibility. Whether he wants it or not doesn't matter. Look at what Europeans doing now. Europeans now realize that all the time that they were talking during last year to Trump, but every year there, somebody went to Washington, somebody went to Europe or whatever, they came to the conclusion that Trump is absolutely unruled individual that cannot be adjusted or changed or do anything. So they don't want to do anything with Trump whatsoever. Therefore, the NATO is now dormant. NATO, you can think it doesn't exist, but at least until 2029, when there will be another president of the United States. So what they're doing instead, they are creating a new system, security system for Europe, which includes Nordic countries, Baltic, UK, France, Germany, and finally, Ukraine. Ukraine is the backbone of European security system. And now they came close to explaining that they are not going to help Trump in any way whatsoever until Trump will completely redo his attitude toward Ukraine. That he will forget about all his stupid talk about Russia being a friend, and he wants Russia to get away from China, and that's his grand strategy. It's not gonna work. Russia and China are joined, and it will never work anything to get them apart. Now, if you understand that all Trump's playing with Russia at $12 trillion projects and all that stuff, it's a detrimental to the interest of civilized world. And the world doesn't want to accept that, and therefore Trump and United States are out. Nobody wants to hear about them. Nobody wants to talk to them or deal with them. It's completely out. Now, about Iran war. First of all, the Trump and Netanyahu already are moving apart. What's happened is that Israel bombed certain Iranian facilities, and Iran, in return, bombed a very critical gas liquefied production facilities in Qatar, which will take 10 years to get back in business. So that, of course, you know what's happened to the markets yesterday, and it will happen even more today and probably next several days. Trump has no way alone fix the problem with the Strait of Hormuz. And if that problem is not fixed in the next 4 or 5 days, that will lead, well, I'm not talking about stock market, it will fall another 20%, it's a given. Because look at yesterday's earnings of Micron Technologies. They had spectacular earnings, and what's happened? Stock went down. Everything is going down because there is a new way to think about the future profits and their correlation to overall economic situation, interest rates, which will go, of course, higher. And you probably heard yesterday's remarks from Powell. So the situation is critical. Trump, just by himself, he has no support in the United States of America whatsoever. He had 20% support. 80% of United States people are against this stupid war. So he is alone, just on his own whims, start the war, and he ostracized himself, United States of America, and that's not what people wanted by electing him at 2024. They didn't want for him. He was promising he will end all the wars and he will never start himself any wars. What is happening right now, it's all exactly opposite. He is a criminal. He has to be stopped. And it's going to happen, of course, in November this year on midterm elections. But I think it's too long to wait. He has to be taken out of the White House and replaced. He's a dangerous, insane man. He's a con artist and has to be taken out. That's what it is. Let's call the spade a spade. Let's not hide. Well, American people voted him in. American people wanted Trump. American people don't know anything. They are following whoever, every demagogue, every idiot who will talk about this and that, and they will listen. Okay, we'll vote for him because Biden was so bad, Kamala Harris was so horrible. No, Trump, okay, so 4 years, we'll see what he's gonna do. He is taking America on its knees internationally, business-wise, on investments, every which way. Americans are suffering right now. They don't want to suffer even more at the gas pumps. The life is becoming unaffordable in the United States, and people will go to, so I think the best business to open in America now, it's a soup kitchen. That's what the future is with Trump and Powell.
I guess Jacoby has something.
So, Mr. Ru, actually, I completely agree with everything that you had stated. One of the things that I had made this prediction actually to Sasha a few weeks ago, and I think this is actually panning out because of the isolation, the way that the policies have begun to truly isolate us, and Trump's actions, especially with this war. There's a movie scene. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Fifth Element. In the movie Fifth Element, they were finally approaching the planet that was, that was coming to destroy the world. And there was that one general that was sent out to meet the planet at one time. And he shot nuclear weapons shot missiles at the planet. The planet absorbed it and just kind of grew. And then the military official kept looking and didn't believe it, so he shot again. And it grew even bigger. And he kept shooting because he thought that he could destroy it and thought that he could win. That's the idea and mindset that I believe that you were expressing, and the same way I believe about what's going on right now with Trump, because he's down and he knows he's down. So he's continually taking risks and doing some very bad things. And China's sitting back and just becoming more powerful in a sense because of the way that it is negotiated when the tariffs hit, and tried to do the free trade situation, tried to do, hey, we're not going to attack, we're going to reach out for more educated individuals to come to our colleges, and so on and so forth. So the theory and the random, I guess, going out on a limb and making a guess is that the end of the country that will end this war will be China, both with Iran now and with Ukraine, because China is tied to Russia when they did the whole BRICS thing. So I think that with that economy, because I also believe that while this is going on, because it's not hitting the news as much, China is also loading up ships around Taiwan. So I think what will happen is as this war continues to grow and they're going to let it fester, they'll end up taking Taiwan while making all these extra deals. Now that they have a deal with Canada, doing cars in Canada, they, I guess, are increasing in the Bangladesh area and the South Asian market. And they're just continuing that negotiation strategy that the U.S. used to have back when the war started. So I don't know if that's a plausible thing, or if you agree, or if you can see where I was going with that. But and I see you have a guest in the background too.
No, we're in middle. I'm just because of the bomb. I mean, we just got the siren. I have to go to the shelter.
Really?
I'll keep you guys on for a bit,
Yes.
but I'll see because the missiles are coming our way. Okay.
Take care.
Yeah, get
Take
safe.
care. Yeah, I spoke with a family who's stuck in Israel, and it seems to be everything that they're telling us isn't exactly what's really happening in Iran. But I want people to take a consideration of a few things about Trump. He can do so many things right now that look extremely more destructive. But you can take a look at his businesses, his track record, his businesses. I mean, even take a look at the White House. He destroyed it so that he could, and in fact, it looks like he bombed it, and he never finished. He never finished the project. He will get bored. He will decide it's not worth his time, and he will move on to something else. So he'll start something. And again, he never has a mission when he starts anything anyway. He doesn't have a goal. He doesn't have a business plan. They didn't have a plan about Iran. Let's just go bomb it. I mean, I was watching a hearing yesterday, and they had told us that they had obliterated all of the nuclear weapons, last summer. 100% they were all gone. And now they're asking the same people who gave them that information, did all of a sudden they're just become an imminent danger of new nuclear weapons? And instead of answering yes or no, they go, we can't answer that. The president has to. And they go, no, you're the one who does this assessment. you have to answer. No, the president has to. So you're seeing a lot of deflection now of everyone doing this, including Trump. He's already thrown 4 of his top aides under the bus as to why he started this war. But a lot of people are starting to do this. But his track record is he'll destroy something completely. His the way he's always dealt with things in the past, he would always just file bankruptcy and leave people hanging. As we have witnessed, the TSA hasn't been paid for well over a month. These families are going hungry. They've worked hard. They're hard workers. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care. They can take pay from ICE. We don't need ICE. We need TSA. As a whole, we need TSA. And, so he's destroying everything for his own whims. These are not planned strategic goals to make the economy better, to make our country safer. None of it. We are targets now. We are targets by everyone who hates us and everyone who will retaliate for those 160 girls that were murdered. I'm just saying, he doesn't finish anything. His trend is generally he'll get bored with it and he'll either push the bigger bomb or he'll just walk away and start something else.
Okay, let me mention something.
ADD.
What I mentioned before, Netanyahu and Trump. So Trump made an announcement that the bombing of Iranian facilities, to which Iran destroyed a good part of facilities in Qatar. Trump said, no, this is Israel did. We have nothing to do with this bombardment of Iranian. So there is already a rift between Netanyahu and Trump, and it was easy to. What is Israel is fighting existential war, and Israel is well prepared to any attacks from Iran, and it used to live there for the last 47 years. 470 years and 4,700 years, and another several years probably will have to be. Now, U.S., unlike Israel, it's exposed throughout the world with 800 military bases, with consulates and embassies in every country in the world, in Europe particularly. So what do you think? Nick says that, what has to happen? The Revolutionary Guard has to give up, right? No. Even if there will be some kind of a peace agreement or something will happen, it will not defend U.S. targets around the world. The Iranians are the most determined, vindictive people who will strike at American targets for next several years throughout the world and in America itself. Do you know how many the American officials now staying at military bases? They're not staying at home. They're vulnerable there. They could be struck and killed or maimed. So therefore, they're staying on military bases. So that's the future of American officials. But average American cannot stay at military bases. So their life will be exposed to all kinds of terroristic attacks and elsewhere. Therefore, this is unfortunately what Trump did to the United States of America and its people.
So
he lacks the consideration of consequences. He has no concept.
In the last few minutes, in other news, the chairman of the Fed said the U.S. is creating no jobs. And it's been, over the past 11 months, we've lost jobs in America, which hasn't happened since COVID. And before that, you had to go back to 2008. So there's a ton of stuff that it's like a perfect storm of Trump incompetence and consequences. Inflation rose to 3.4% in February, even before the war. And one more thing, the local news is asking people when you go to the airport, bring gift cards to give to the TSA agents so they can buy groceries.
Well, they're quitting now. They can't afford to work for nothing. And so the Senate had a meeting and the Congress had a meeting, and they petitioned to cut ICE salaries so that they can pay the TSA employees. Heck, if they would get the money back from Nome, the $143 million she gave to a fake company, they could pay the employees with $143 million pretty nicely. But they won't do that. They're not going to go after Nome to get back the money she embezzled. They're not going to go, and that's $143 million, probably 220 if you count the other. But
they had to buy airtime for the ads.
They determined, but you could get that money back. They determined the one company was completely fake. And it was, they received $143 million. So, we could get that money back and easily pay the TSA. But the argument right now is paying TSA. Well, TSA cannot function. The employees cannot function without, feeding their family. They can't go to work hungry. And so, they were asking for gift cards just so that they could go to the vending machine or to the cafeteria just to eat. So they're they should be starting GoFundMe pages, but they're quitting. They're quitting.
So
this is what I tell people: no, Delta can still fly, but there's not going to be anybody in the air traffic control centers and in the towers and the men that do this with guiding the planes and the security. But TSA isn't just security, and people think that's all they are. No, TSA is not just security. They are the air traffic control towers. They are everything. But TSA isn't just air. They are the buses on the ground. They are the trains, okay? They are everything that we use for transportation that is public. And nobody considers that because the majority of this country are MAGAs, and MAGAs lack
not the
consideration of
50% of the country. Not a majority.
The TSA agents are definitely quitting. They're actually talking about closing airports because they don't have enough people to fill out those airports. Because again, yes, TSA is more than just airport security. It is everybody at the airport. Right. So they're talking about closing down airports. They had a bill. Also, speaking of the money, the $143 million from Caribou or whatever her name was, from that commercial, but also you got to get Pete Hegseth for the $93 billion that he wasted in a full month. In 1 month, $93 billion on a bunch of junk.
Lobster meals and things like that.
So that could have paid for them the whole year. But also, there was a bill on the floor the past couple of times where they were trying to do everybody but carve out ICE and CBP to make sure that they can cover and get TSA paid and TSA whole. But the Republican Party has shot that down numerous times.
Yes,
right
they have. The Republican Party.
Really, I mean, and as much as the Republican Party keeps trying to push this on the Democrats, the Republican Party is in control. We have to stop with, well, it's the Democrats' fault. No, the Republican Party is in full control. Everything. The House, the Senate, the presidency, the Supreme Court, most of the federal courts, everything.
Sasha, what is your comment?
I'd like to mention something. You're talking about some particular problems. TSA is one problem. This war, there are so many problems. Even if you fix one, there will be other 9 problems to deal with. I think Americans in this present situation, they have to read Karl Marx, his book Das Kapital. They have to understand that the only way is, in present situation, to take power to themselves away from the technocrats through all this high-tech moguls who made Trump a multi-billionaire in the last several months, and just get down to business of governing United States of America. What today there is no government. They are criminals, pedophiles, hiding on military bases,
Right.
and that to be dealt with somehow.
Check out this also, which is what something that also really isn't covered, but pointed out what's happening in Cuba too. That's something that falls on this. Cuba went without power. Cuba, no power whatsoever. Whose fault was that? That was actually Donald Trump's and this whole U.S. war's fault. This embargo on oil where they aren't allowing the energy and everything to go to Cuba. So this is another using starvation and power and everything else to take over a country.
But
That's what they're
isn't
considering.
Russia now sending oil to Cuba?
Again, we're isolating ourselves from the whole situation. Cuba's right in our next door neighbor, and we're supposed to be helping them, and same thing with Haiti. We're supposed to be helping them in these situations. We're not. We're actually trying to take over them. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump in an interview said it would be my honor to basically take over a nation. How disturbed do you have to be to say it's an honor to do something like that?
Well,
They aren't asking you to do it. You're annexing a nation. You're taking over a nation.
I think
did not
people have been misrepresented about the status of Cuba anyway, because in my travels, majority of the people that I've bumped into, especially Canadians, were always going to Cuba, and they were talking about how beautiful it was and how nice and safe and affordable, and they didn't understand why Americans just couldn't get along with Cuba. And
It was beautiful before Donald Trump. Since now what he's doing is in Cuba, people are getting stranded.
Doing good. Yourself?
Yeah.
Sorry? I think he said something. Anyway, people are stranded in Cuba because the flights who brought people in Cuba, they cannot refuel their plane to go back. So there are a lot of people and a lot of planes. Canada will deal with this problem slowly, but the situation is changing into the worse, and I don't know how Cuban people will tolerate this present situation.
Quite honestly, I think we've got so many non-allies and enemies that it won't be long before everyone turns against us and then on us, because we are sandwiched between two countries right now that we have totally annihilated and hate us. So, but we are at the top of the hour. Thank you everyone for joining us. Don't forget to watch Sasha's show on the update of the war, and his investment show, Modern Investing, and also watch Rick Rosner's show, Naked at Night. It's very funny and humorous, but it's also the bantering of what we're dealing with every day. Please, everyone, stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Pod TV. Until then, take care.
And maybe at 5 o'clock later on today.
Oh, 5 o'clock. Absolutely. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone tune in. And until then, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Yesterday, we didn't get this all the way shut down. So let's see if I can do it right this time. How you doing, Jacoby?